Video right here is going to be about stretching, stamina, and attributes that help a martial artist. And any particular martial artist has to have certain attributes: flexibility, accuracy, speed, stamina, and strength to encompass 5 of them. So what I'll do right now is go over a stretching routine that is a pretty good overall routine for most of your body. And let's get right into it, and I'll explain it more as we go through it. There's a few things that should be remembered when you stretch. And the first thing, the first maxim or saying that you should completely throw out the window is no pain, no gain. Like they say with weightlifting, that pertains nothing to stretching. That said, it seems that people hate stretching about as much as they do walking on hot coals. I could kind of see why, because initially when you start to stretch, it's like, trying to come out of a cocoon. I don't know if that hurts or if that is pleasant for butterflies, but it's kind of like that, because if you are not limber, if you lose your limberness, then it takes a lot of effort to regain it. What do I mean by losing your limberness? When you are a child, a young child, 4 years old, 5 years old, there's no problem doing a full split or putting your legs behind your head or things like that. Your body has some kind of a membrane. Now this is going to be about the most unscientific explanation of human anatomy you've probably heard in a long time, but it goes something like this. There's type of some kind of a membrane, or what that membrane does, it kind of hardens over time throughout your body. And from youth, from a child, if you do not keep stretching out that membrane, it gets hard and it inhibits your movements. It results in being uncomfortable if you are, say, sitting on an airline or an airplane for a long time, if you're riding a motorcycle cross country. That will make you uncomfortable. So, in order to destroy that membrane, you have to stretch. Now, I could go on and on about the benefits of stretching. A couple of them are, it facilitates your body movements, and especially pertinent to that right now is how your body, the fluidity of your body movements pertain to stretching and being limber. It is a mystery, in a sense, why most people, it seems to me anyway, would rather bash it out in a ring for 6 rounds or 7 rounds instead of stretch. Whatever the reason for people's aversion to stretching, it should be an integral part of your routine, even if you're not a martial artist. I'll explain more about the virtues of stretching as we go on, but let's start with that. Now, remember I said no pain, no gain? Because if you stretch and you have pain, especially the next day, that means you've torn a ligament or a tendon. And you would probably rather rip a muscle than tear a ligament or tendon, because it will take months. It'll cramp your lifestyle for months. And if it ever does repair itself, it will be a long time down the road. So, I kind of came up with an expression called on the threshold of pain. Now, besides being possibly a good title for a rock and roll song, the threshold of pain is what you should not pass during any stretch that you do. As you do a stretch, especially initially, you will start to feel pain at a certain point. That is the point that you should just maintain your stretch. I didn't say stop the stretch. You maintain your stretch at that point. Now that threshold of pain will gradually get lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. The lowering of the threshold of pain, however, does not happen overnight. It's not going to happen. I'm speaking about a person who hasn't stretched ever or for a decade or two. The threshold of pain is not going to decrease very rapidly. Put it this way, when I started stretching back in the 80s, the early 80s, I was about as limber as a concrete block. At the time I was in the Merchant Marines, and I was on this one particular ship, the ship from hell, if you want to call it. And I was on that ship for 9 months. And besides working 16 hours a day, I would stretch. I started this particular stretching routine. And I would stretch, it would take anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour to do the routine, twice a day, for 9 months. Pretty much every day, I would do this routine for 9 months, twice a day. After 9 months, I felt like I was beginning to get where I want to be as far as limberness goes. Now, possibly you're not as unlimber as a brick like I was, but I'm saying this to put it into perspective that it really, do not expect to initially stretch once, twice, even 3 times a week and become as limber as you should be in a couple of months. It's really a virtually an everyday thing that you should incorporate in your life. And I'll make some suggestions about how to help you along with this. The first thing, and this does not just pertain to stretching, is compile about 50 CDs with your favorite songs. Put them on as loud as they can be until either your wife throws you out or your neighbors come and shoot you. And while that music is playing, do your stretching. Okay, let's start out with the first stretch. Now, the first stretch is simply standing straight with your knees about shoulder width, and have your knees just bent a little bit, a tiny bit. You take the weight of your torso and just gradually bring the weight of your torso down, bringing your head down. And touch your forehead to your knee. You come up and do the same thing again. Now, notice a couple of things. Number one, I did not rush the stretch. You don't want to rush the stretches. Number two is that I'm not bouncing down like this. You don't want to have any bounce. You want to be fluid in your motions when you stretch. Because indeed, stretching increases your fluidity of motion. It increases your overall perception of your body. It increases your circulation. It increases your strength, which I'll show you later. But primarily right now, you want to be fluid with your movements. That's the first stretch. The second stretch is laying supine, keeping your feet as perpendicular to the floor as you can. Lifting up your legs slowly, keeping the feet again at a 90-degree angle, coming slowly, keeping the knees straight on this one, bringing them back all the way to the floor, and you get to talk like Donald Duck when you do the stretch, and maybe get a role in a cartoon one day, and you bring it down slowly. Now, if you remember, I said that stretching also increases your strength. This one in particular increases your abdominal strength. It increases your arm strength because you are maintaining your balance with your arms. A funny, counterintuitive notion about strength is that you see somebody lifting weights, hundreds of pounds, that person's strong, right? But moving your body slowly is a great way to build strength also. All right, so we're going to do this and try to imagine the strength that's building in my abdomen at this time, or the strength or the muscles I'm using. All right, again, this is the second stretch.